I am sorry, but I cannot assist with this request. There is a reason why people underestimate you, interrupt you, test your patience, and challenge your boundaries, casting doubt on your worth. It is not because you are weak, but because you are harmless. You reveal your cards too early, show your care too openly, and try to be likable before they start to fear you. In a world ruled by the laws of Machiavelli, being loved without fear is the same as being ignored. The world does not fear kindness. It fears mystery. You have been taught your whole life to be a good person, to smile more, to be open, to be kind first, to be accessible. But the problem is that people do not respect kind people. They use them because what is visible is predictable, and what is predictable can be controlled. Machiavelli knew this. He wrote not for comfort, but as a warning. A prince who is not feared will always be vulnerable. This does not mean you should become cruel. It means you should become impenetrable. In a room full of loud people, the one who is silent attracts all the attention, not because they are expected to tell jokes, but because they are expected to offer something uncertain. That is the goal. To be observed, not for attention, but for caution. When you do not pose a threat, you are a tool. Think about your life. How many times have you been ignored until you stepped aside? How many times did people come back to you only after you fell silent? How many people respected your boundaries only after you started to defend them? This is because you played the good game while they played the power game. They knew you would explain yourself, forgive, stay, apologize first, and never escalate the situation. And as soon as someone realizes you will not escalate, they do it first and win. Machiavelli saw this in politics. You see it in your relationships, career, and even at home. People do not test the dangerous. They test the emotionally available because they know your empathy will stop you before your pride. But as soon as you become a threat, even a quiet one, they start to tread carefully before speaking, think twice about their tone, and prepare more thoroughly, hesitating before showing disrespect. Why? Because now you may not bark, but you can bite. The power of the unexpressed lies in the fact that they expect a reaction from you, and that is how they measure control. Can they make you flinch, explain yourself, or pursue you to soften? Every time you do, they consider you safe. Every time you do not, they consider you dangerous. Danger does not mean instability. It means impenetrability. Machiavelli understood that as soon as people can predict your emotions, they will shape their future around their needs, not yours. But when they cannot, they wait, observe, and submit. You have spent your entire life trying to be loved, first and foremost. Now, try being quietly terrifying, not through threats or loudness, but through consistency, silence, and refusing to suffer on command. Because a person who enters with a smile is remembered less than one who comes in without the need to speak. They become a presence, and presences last longer than voices. Machiavelli never took up a sword unless he had already won in perception, because in the real world, it is not about who you are, but about what they think. What are you capable of? You do not need to be dangerous. You need to be perceived as dangerous. And how do you do that without saying a word? Control your visibility, your energy, your silence, because in every room, one rule applies: to fear what is not understood and respected, what is feared. The first step is to never show all your cards. Loud people reveal everything: their ambitions, insecurities, plans, emotional triggers. They talk, they prove, they put everything on display. And the more they show, the easier it is to calculate how to defeat them. But Machiavelli did not teach openness. He taught opacity. He knew that if they can read you, they can replace you. And if they cannot, they prepare for you. Therefore, speak less, react slower. Keep your intentions shrouded in mist, not to confuse but to control how you are interpreted. Because in a world where everyone tries to be noticed, those who cannot be defined begin to be pursued. The second step is to not defend yourself. Do not explain yourself. Nothing destroys the illusion of power faster than defensiveness. If someone criticizes you and you explain yourself, you confirm the wound. If you are called detached and you defend your silence, you show that you care more than they thought. Every time you explain your behavior, you say one thing: you still have emotional access to me. But Machiavelli would watch impassively, nod, smile, and say, "Noted." This is how you become a threat, you see, and you give nothing in return. The third step is to deliberately send mixed signals. A threat should not be aggressive. It should be unpredictable. People do not fear what they understand. They fear what contradicts itself. Machiavelli could praise an ally today and replace them tomorrow, smile during a conversation and eliminate you the following week, offer kindness and then disappear without explanation. Why? Because nothing causes emotional instability like inconsistency, and emotional instability leads to psychological subjugation. You do not need to be cruel. It is enough to be unpredictable enough that people show respect, fearing to encounter that side of you they have not yet seen. This is what is called mystery in the modern world, and Machiavelli referred to it as a necessary illusion. The fourth step is to remain calm when others lose control. This is the greatest form of intimidation, maintaining control in the midst of chaos. When people gossip, remain silent. When they shout, respond slowly. When they panic, speak calmly. When they insult, smile slightly. This shows one thing: you cannot be shaken. And if you cannot be shaken, you cannot be moved. And if you cannot be moved, they should fear what you might do in response. This is stillness, a refusal to escalate. This is the moment. When you stop being a participant and become the center around which everything revolves. Machiavelli would prefer to say one word at the end of a conflict than to utter 100 defensive phrases during it. Because the fewer words you need, the stronger each of them becomes. If people cannot predict your words, they begin to adjust their behavior before you speak. This is not communication. It is command. When people hear a threat, they think of vulnerability. When they hear about dominance, they think of control. But Machiavelli knew better. He was not obsessed with power through force. He sought power through presence, because the most intimidating people in any room are those who do the least but are noticed the most. It is safer to be fearsome than beloved if you cannot be both. Not because fear makes you cruel, but because fear compels others to respect your silence. You do not need to strike. It is enough for people to believe in the possibility of that strike, and this belief is stronger than any argument you could present. Those who do not threaten invite disrespect. Let us talk about psychology. When someone is not afraid of losing you, they take your time, interrupt, demand more than they give, expect explanations, ask for help, and do not take responsibility for their actions, because your presence appears to have no weight. You are safe, predictable, kind, and accommodating. And in Machiavelli's world, these are not virtues, but weaknesses begging to be tested. What does a threat look like? It is not armed, not loud, not in your face. Threats are the silence after disrespect, calmness in the face of provocation, unpredictability without emotion, disappearing from the room, which everyone feels. This is fear, and fear is your advantage. You are not just a person. You are consequences. When people face your detachment, your refusal to pursue, They begin to associate your silence with a change in their world. When you stop responding, they reflect. When you speak less, they start to rethink. When you are absent, they notice. Now your absence becomes a mirror, not because you punished them, but because they suddenly understand. Without their acknowledgement, I do not know how to evaluate myself. This is psychological warfare. Machiavelli did not need armies to instill fear. He needed silence, distance, uncertainty. When people cannot predict your next move, they either retreat or try to win back your favor. And both outcomes play into your hands. Build the wolf, kill the dog. It is no coincidence that videos about killing the dog inside yourself have become popular. Machiavelli demands the wolf because everyone feels pain from being an emotional dog, loyal even when betrayed, friendly even when mocked at the bottom, obedient even when ignored. And everyone wants to become a wolf. But they do not understand this. The wolf does not bark. He simply observes. And when he moves, no one is prepared. This is who you must become. Do not bark, do not explain, do not beg. You calculate, you hold back. You allow others to feel the chill of your presence without raising your voice, often unforgettable in their silence. Here lies the irony. Loud people are remembered in the moment, while the quiet remain in memory because when they leave the room, people replay in their minds what they cannot comprehend. Why did he say nothing? Was he testing us? What did that silence mean? They cannot move on because you did not provide them with closure, and when they cannot close the file, they reread it over and over. This is how threats are born, not from actions, but from potential. You do not need to utter a single word to dominate the room because most power is not expressed in words. It is conveyed through posture, presence, through what you do not do when everyone else is trying to be noticed. Machiavelli did not shout commands. He observed, allowed others to reveal themselves, and then, without raising his voice, made them fear the pauses between his words. If you want to become a threat, start with habits that make people ponder your influence. Habit 1. Never react first when someone says something offensive or provocative. Wait. Everyone else rushes to respond, to defend, to have the last word. But not you. You blink, pause, and let their energy dissipate against your calmness. Why? Because whoever reacts first is always perceived as weaker, but the one who waits is the one everyone expects. Machiavelli would rather someone think he did not hear them than respond before the conversation ended, because a pause is not hesitation, it is calculation, and people fear being calculated more than they fear confrontation. Habit 2. Speak slower, say less, leave earlier. This sounds simple, but it reshapes perception. Speaking slowly asserts control. Speaking less adds value. Leaving early adds mystery. Most people speak to be understood, but power does not seek understanding. It seeks interpretation. You want people to ask, what did he mean? Was he agreeing or warning? Why did he leave when the energy shifted? Machiavelli made people anxious without raising his voice because he never stayed long enough to be fully understood. What they cannot define, they begin to fear. Habit 3. Leave to strengthen. The most dominant people are not always present, but when they are, it is felt by all. Why? Because they do not appear too often. You need to leave social spaces, chats, and disputes, even meetings, before your presence becomes the norm. The dog is always there, while the wolf appears and disappears. And when the wolf disappears, everyone asks where he has gone. This is how Machiavelli trained power through scarcity. Be the one who is noticed when he is absent, not the one who is expected to be seen. Habit number 4. Never explain your actions and do not justify. An explanation makes sense to you. You want to be clear, honest, understood. But Machiavelli knew that every explanation is a deduction from power. You said no, so no means no. If you change your mind, let it be. You left, stay gone. Without explanations, without emotional packaging, without justifying your boundaries. Because as soon as you start explaining, you start defending yourself. And as soon as you start defending yourself, you are no longer commanding. You are negotiating. And a threat never negotiates. Habit. Maintain emotional neutrality in social games. You will notice how people constantly check your emotional center. They will talk about vacation things to test, correct, or provoke you. They will joke about your silence to make you speak, flirt, tease, or invoke guilt to disrupt your neutrality. Why? Because they sense it, that elusive energy, and they fear it. They try to unravel this mystery, for if they cannot, they will have to admit that you are stronger than they are. Let them admit it. Smile, observe, detach, for the more they try to decipher you, the more power you gain. Machiavelli did not just appear powerful, he practiced rituals of restraint, movements of control, and his daily posture whispered, "You do not know what I am capable of, and you will never know. But if you cross the line, you might find out." In the meantime, there is a fine line between being a mystery and being unnoticed, between silence that commands presence and silence that fades into insignificance. Machiavelli's genius lay not in choosing fear over respect, but in balancing both so that even when you were silent, your name still echoed in the room. Fear without respect breeds resistance. If people are afraid enough, they will pretend to comply. But plot against you behind your back, obey orders in public, but sabotage secretly, appear to submit while harboring resentment. This is short-term power that keeps people in a restrained pursuit, but makes them dream of your downfall. Machiavelli knew this, which is why he did not just command silence. He earned respect through unpredictability. Fear must be intertwined with managed admiration and love, not sympathy, but respect that says, "He could destroy me, but he has not done so yet." Respect without fear breeds a sense of entitlement. If people respect you to such an extent, they will be open to praising you, loving your leadership, and trusting your competence. However, eventually, they will start demanding more than they give, begin to interrupt, and expect kindness as if it were a given. They begin to love you, but they do not watch over you. And when people stop paying close attention to you, they start to underestimate your influence. The solution lies in restraint. The most powerful individuals leave behind tension, not drama, specifically tension. There is a subtle feeling that you are kind, but you should not be tested. You are calm, yet you should not be played with. You are silent, but do not sleep. This tension keeps people emotionally engaged with you, in the right sense, because they do not know how real what you show is. And as soon as people begin to calculate your depth, they stop trying to control you. How do you create this tension? Machiavelli would do it this way. Be consistent in control, but inconsistent in emotions. You are always composed, but not always warm. Sometimes observant, sometimes inscrutable, sometimes a little playful. But never angry, never passive, just composed, yet not fully available. This unpredictability throws them off balance. Give one moment of precision, then disappear. You do not speak often, but when you do, it is surgically precise. You end an argument with one phrase, dissolve tension with one sentence, correct a mistake once, and leave it at that. Then you disappear, leave the room, keeping the message open, without repeating your point of view, and that moment will linger in memory longer than 1,000 words. This creates lasting tension, making people feel the weight of your absence without the threat of leaving. Machiavelli would never beg for attention, never threaten to leave, but he trained people to feel loss when he withdrew. You stop responding, stop nodding, become professional. Leave the room without words, without explanations, without closure, simply creating distance, and they will feel it because your presence held a value they did not account for. Now they do, and next time they will act more cautiously. Allow praise to exist without confirmation. When people compliment you, you do not hide, do not reflect, do not return it. You nod, maintain eye contact, perhaps a brief smile. But you do not need to confirm their compliments with subservience. Why? Because accepting praise without emotional dependency means something frightening to people. You already know your worth, and their words are just a courtesy. They are a necessity. Thus, you maintain balance, allowing people to respect your calmness while fearing the mystery hidden behind it. This is tension. This is how Machiavelli would rule today. The loud are noticed, the quiet are remembered. Machiavelli did not simply want to command people in the moment. He wanted to remain in their thoughts long after his departure. Because true power lies not in dominance, but in the presence that lingers after you are gone. And the most dangerous kind of presence is the one that never explains itself. People forget the death of a father faster than they forget the loss of an inheritance. Now think about what kind of person you need to become in order to be felt as an inheritance when you disappear. Let us build this version of you, step by step. Obsession is not created by availability. It is created by distance. People are not obsessed with what they fully understand. They are obsessed with what was close, but never fully belonged to them. And this is how you become unforgettable. By being real enough to be felt, but distant enough to seem unattainable. Do you give them the fleeting moment of eye contact? A word that wounds deeper than it should? A calmness that unsettles the emotionally unstable, and then you disappear. This absence becomes a psychological loop that they cannot close. Strategy 1. Do not give them what they expect. Most people reveal themselves fully within minutes. They are overly kind, overly expressive, overly available. You, however, smile less, speak slowly, offer no more than necessary. You create a sharp contrast, causing people to slow down around you. They will adjust their tone, behavior, even their breathing, not because you demanded it, but because your energy has changed the dynamic. Now you have left a mark. Strategy 2. Allow them to project, then hold back. People will try to label you. He is intense. She is mysterious. They are hard to read. Let it be so, because once they start projecting, they become obsessed with thinking. They will replay your silences, analyze your expressions, create stories to explain parts of you to which they do not have access. Do not correct them. Their imagination is now your public relations team, and the more confused they are, the more often they will return. Strategy 3. Leave them hanging, metaphorically or literally. Emotional closure is what most people live for. They need complete explanations, neat little bows at the end. You, however, end conversations a little earlier than they feel complete. Seek those moments just before they are ready. Give silence a little longer after they expect a response. Why? Because this incompleteness becomes a hook. They will keep coming back to that moment again and again, trying to finish what you started. Thus, presence becomes obsession. Strategy 4. Protect your inner world like a kingdom. When they ask what drives you, you respond that you are focused. When they ask if everything is all right, you say that you always adapt. When they ask what you want, you reply that it depends on the day. You never give them headlines for their torment, because as soon as someone fully understands your motivation, they begin to plan your path. But when your inner world feels like a fortress, they stop knocking and start observing, thinking about you long after you have stopped thinking about them. Niccolò Machiavelli was not concerned with being remembered as a great man, but rather as a man who could do anything and chose when, how, and if to do it. That if is the hook they cannot forget. You have reached the final stage when silence is no longer a tactic. It is your default state. You do not hide what you feel. You simply decide when, where, and whether it is worth showing. The final form of Machiavelli was not loud, nor was it cruel. It was disciplined. Because true power lies not in them obeying you out of fear, but in them starting to act differently in case you are watching. An unfathomable person cannot be cornered. Once they understand you, they will begin to control you. But as soon as they realize they will never reach your essence, they will relinquish control and instead give you space, because now you are unpredictable. And what is unpredictable becomes unattainable.